Welcome back, everyone, to the Actually Useful podcast. AJ here with Ariel and our lovely guest, Alex. Hello, hello. How are we doing, ladies?
Doing great.
Welcome, welcome.
It's midnight over here in London, but we're going to get right into it. Actually Useful is the show where we diagnose what's broken in the tech landscape, otherwise known as the slow process of enshittification, and we chat about the hometown heroes trying to build actually useful products and services and do their part to make tech a little less shitty. So, Ariel, let's kick it off. How about we chat about what's going on in tech news? Anything we should know about?
Yes, unfortunately, there is new enshittification news.
Okay.
So there's a couple things. One thing that's notable is that WhatsApp is now going to have ads. So they're going to, I know, they're going to add, especially because you're
just kidding. I knew that was going to
now.
happen.
We talk on WhatsApp all the time. Yeah, so WhatsApp is adding ads to their updates tab first. I think it might already be out or like in the next release. And then they also have said that they're going to add them to the search feature and to channels, which is annoying. They're like, oh, we're not going to put it in your chats, but I'm just waiting for the day that like ads go in our personal chats. But yeah, it's interesting with WhatsApp because Jan Koum, who's like the co-founder and was the CEO of WhatsApp for a long time, obviously like famously said that privacy was the most important thing in WhatsApp and was like a big part of his ethos growing up in the USSR. That
he's Ukrainian, right?
Phone. Yeah, he's Ukrainian. Yeah, and he would talk about like when he was a kid, he would like listen to his mom stop phone conversations by being like, this isn't a conversation for the telephone, because their phones were tapped. So it was like privacy was so important. And multiple times in the process of running WhatsApp and like the Facebook acquisition and stuff would talk about how they were never going to like compromise on that. If you have ads, then you're the product, and they'd never do that. And their acquisition contract, I mean, it's not shocking. Nobody's shocked that Zuckerberg is putting ads in WhatsApp, but their acquisition contract for WhatsApp when they acquired it actually had an agreement. I haven't like read the contract, but it had a clause if Meta like added monetization incentives into WhatsApp, that the two co-founders of WhatsApp, their shares would immediately vest and they could exit.
Well, that's why Brian left and started Signal.
Yeah, exactly.
Or joined, yeah. joined Signal, but he was like, this Zuck is involved. I'm getting out of here. Like they're all just becoming the same product, you know?
I know.
WhatsApp stories, TikTok, it's just all the same at this point.
Yeah, so that's bad news. There's also bad news from the Google front. So Google, this is like a deep cut. So Google removed a feature called Claim Review that used to be in some of its search results. So Claim Review was a feature in like the schema markup, which is like structured data that helps search engines understand what's on a website. And the way it worked is that Claim Review was like a fact checker, where there were some fact checker organizations, so like verified fact checker desks at newsrooms, or PolitiFact and Snopes had access to be able to, when they would publish articles about like often conspiracy or contentious claims, they would add this markup so that if somebody Googled something like, was COVID a hoax? And there was like a Snopes article of like, no, it wasn't a hoax, that like Google would serve you in the answer to that question. Or if one of the answers came back like, yes, it is a hoax, then it would serve you this like rich snippet of, no, it's not. Like, we checked we know from Snopes, a verified fact-checking organization, that COVID is not a hoax or whatever. And they've stopped doing that. They said that they stopped doing that because it was like an underused feature. But I think that they did it because they've obviously like changed all their search results to be Gemini powered. And I think it just doesn't play well with Gemini.
Maybe they just can't tell. They just don't have the bandwidth to actually review anymore. I mean, probably cut their whole staff that's like actually doing that.
Yeah, on top of like X now, I mean, X using like community notes instead of fact checking that it used to have. And I mean, it's not new, but it just feels like the pressure to have facts checked seems unfortunately light and getting lighter in a world where
Yeah.
there's like more and more misinformation.
More and more misinformation, more and more budget cuts to
Yeah,
humans to
exactly.
do the work.
So speaking of integrity in journalism, today we're joined by our wonderful guest Alex. Alex, you're a software developer at a nonprofit journalism organization, right?
I
Tell
am.
us a little about what you work on and yeah, how you're what you work on, what tools you work on, what you do for the company you work for.
Yeah, for sure. So I am a software engineer. I've been a software engineer at this organization for about 7 years. It'll be 7 years in November. So I'm just rounding up and saying 7 years. It sounds more impressive. um, but so I've done a lot of things in my time there. When I first got hired, I was hired to work on the website. And I was hired into a pretty robust team of engineers. The tech team, designers, product managers, Scrum leaders, and plus developers, I think was maybe like 50 to 60 people. And it's like grown and shrunk a little since then. But yeah, so I was hired to work on the website, and I was hired to originally for front end React. So my main language is JavaScript. So I JavaScript front end, React Redux front end, and then on the back end was actually PHP, which was a language that I had never written in before, which was something I remember as I was learning to code, and people would say, once you learn one programming language, it's much easier to learn others. I kind of didn't believe it, partly because I was a linguistics major who has a hard time learning languages.
Okay.
And given that I took many, many years to try to learn Spanish and still could only speak it questionably well, I was like, how the heck am I gonna like learn another programming language? It also took me so long to like get to where I'm at with JavaScript. But I found it to be very true, which was that once you learn one programming language, it is much easier and simpler to pick up another one. So I was able to pick up PHP on the job. So it was React, Redux, front end, PHP backend. I was building, features that would be on the audience facing website, whether it be, audio player functionality. When I first got hired, there was a really big redesign that we did for the kind of built-in audio player on the website. So that was really cool. And I could point to people, I could say, oh, go to this website and look, that's what I did. It was fun to have a job where I could say to my parents, like, oh, look, go, I did that. Like, you have no idea what I do.
That's such a thing in tech to be like, to show your family, like, this is what I made,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was really cool. I also got a lot of cool experience working with our CI/CD pipeline. I learned about, I know it's kind of old school now, but we were using Jenkins for building. Just like my introduction to, like, what does it mean to actually like compile and build this code and deploy this code on actual production servers, as opposed to I'm just, messing around on my computer and like launching an app with like Heroku or something.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And I also got some experience working on, we have a CMS, which is content management system.
Yeah.
And kind of the integrations that would go from the, internal facing CMS to the audience facing website. Again, that CMS was written in Java, so I also got to get my hands dirty with some of that. So just, building different integrations, making sure, what journalists would write in the CMS would make it properly to the website, different kind of like publishing things. We would deal with, production issues. There was an on-call rotation. News happens 24 hours a day. So that was really cool. And then I worked on that team for about 3 years, and then I transitioned to a team that focused on another piece of internal facing software that journalists use to both plan stories and also, it's like a cross between a content management system, an asset management system, and kind of like a planning tool. So it is the tool that is used by reporters, hosts on air who read scripts, and then the, producers and editors who would be writing the stories, writing the scripts, and then audio engineers who would be uploading audio for that to be broadcast. And then the other part of it was getting that audio to internal clients like the website or third-party vendors like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, also, integrating different ad tools. So yeah, it's been really cool to kind of work at different parts of the company where I work on audience-facing technology, but then also internal-facing technology where the clients are the audience is, my coworkers, and both really different experiences, also different development cycles, and also different like deployment tech stack. When I was working on the website, it was mostly, it had already kind of transitioned into serverless in the cloud, which is my favorite misnomer is like serverless architecture is not actually serverless. You just don't own the server that it's on.
Right. Yeah.
So that had kind of mostly transitioned to cloud services when I started working on the website, or it was like as we were switching over. So that was cool. And then when I went to more internal tools, that was much more like on-prem based. And slowly, like different microservices have been moving to the cloud, which again is an interesting process to see, but also so much of it, more of it was like legacy stuff that was on, our internal servers. So yeah, it's just really cool to see different sides of the operation.
I'm so interested just in general in and out of tech. I'm so interested in like the intricacies of people's work and like being able to visualize how the things that we use every single day are actually getting made. So in your organization, it's a very large organization. Do you ever have, I mean, you're a developer. I'm assuming that you have people on like a product team and a project management team. Do you ever interact with the journalists who are using these types of like CMS? How does that information come to you to make sure that you're making like the most useful products since y'all are making it internally?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say it's encouraged for us if we're building a feature, we can reach out to folks. Like I remember there was one time I was building kind of an integration between like a syndication tool and our internal software. And, in that case, I went and was talking to some more content focused people about their experience and what they needed. But then obviously 2020 hit, all of a sudden everyone was full-time remote. And I think this is true probably for a lot of organizations and companies that were full-time in person and have gone to either remote or hybrid situation. I think haven't even, 5 years out, I think we still haven't quite figured out how to replicate that like serendipity of meeting different people in the office, having those face-to-face conversations. And I will say, like, I think anyone who wants to work remote, like, should be able to. Like, there is nothing that I can't do with my job that I can't do with my laptop from anywhere. But I do think it's an interesting question to how to maintain those relationships and how I think there has to be some intention around it.
Yeah, I don't want any of my old bosses to hear this segment because they were always trying to tell me that they're like, no, you can't be fully remote because there's these like special moments that happen that are unplanned in the hallway, and it's totally true. But I'm on the product side. So it's like, I'm talking to people all the time anyway. And I'm not somebody that's just sitting at my desk. Even when I'm working remotely, it's like, I'm in calls with like 40 people all the time. So I was like, just let me stay at home.
Yeah, but no. Yeah. And it's hard because I don't want it to sound like, oh my gosh, we miss so much by not being in person, because I think there are trade-offs, and I do think the trade-offs are worth it. And I am all like, the other cool thing, my tech department also unionized. So we have in our union contract that, the positions that are deemed to be fully remote, we get to be fully remote, and you can't just bring us back into the office willy-nilly. Like, you have to bargain that. And we fought really hard for that. So it's hard because I also don't want to give fodder to the return to office people.
And I'm just teasing you too. But...
No, totally. But it's same. But I do think, how do we think creatively about building some of that camaraderie while respecting people's autonomy?
Yeah, there was a period of time where a company I worked for did the office as an amenity, which was like the office is there if you like people, some people have young kids. Like I know y'all can't work from home if you have young kids. And it was nice to be able to like coordinate with some of my coworkers of like, oh, we're all going to go in on this one day and we're going to go out to lunch and we're going to like have that special moment. And that was like peak where it was sort of like you could just, organize amongst yourselves.
I think one of my current companies does it pretty well, where we do an offsite. We're a remote first company, but every year we get together and it's intense, but it's so fun. And we pick a good location and all the devs and business folks are all chatting together, and more gets done in that week than like 3 months of work. Just because there's so much like pent up, oh, I want to chat to this person, and we're doing all these amazing sessions. So at my future companies, it's definitely something I'm going to advocate for.
Yeah, for real. And I've also never been in a situation where I'm like 100% remote, in the sense that like I've never met my coworkers in person, and people I know who are in that situation, they're like, it's really hard. It's really alienating because you kind of have to be top of mind in order for people to like give you not just for work purposes, but just to feel like you're in camaraderie with your colleagues, and like you're spending time with people who matter. So I get it. I do think it's right to just have more flexibility than completely remote or completely in office. I did not realize that you unionize, though. I would love to talk about that with you in whatever regard you can, just because labor power is one of the 4 constraints against enshittification. And it's so like you're in an interesting position because you do tech at a company that is like kind of tech and also kind of news. And it's been really difficult for tech companies to unionize. So I'd love to hear about like your process, like how it changed the company before, because you worked there when it unionized, right?
Yeah.
What was the process like?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I could talk about this for hours. I would say if anyone is interested in getting involved in like tech unionizing, the Tech Workers Coalition is an incredible organization. I went to one of their conferences. I think it's called Circuit Breakers. They had one last year in San Francisco. They're having another one this October in New York. And incredible people, incredible conversations. Like, I think I was going through, because we unionized, got recognized in, I think, 2021, but then we spent like 2 years bargaining our first contract. So got our contract like sometime in 2023. The timing might be a little off. And then after 2023, and this is like, I think like this is my first union at all, let alone like tech union. But I've heard kind of tell that like, the motivation and engagement kind of like comes in waves. Like there's a lot of engagement and organizing and excitement, like when you're first getting recognized, when you're bargaining your first contract, and then after you get your contract, like things like might lull for a little while before they ramp up when you're ready to bargain another contract. And again, I think like we're in, I think a 3-year contract right now. And so when I went to the conference last year, we were in that little bit of lull where it was like, like it took all this work to get this contract. And now we're kind of like taking a few steps back, figuring out what we're doing. And it was a little bit of a like, especially for the people who were super involved like me, like, oh no, like, are we losing our momentum? Like, what's happening? And so it was really nice to go and just talk to other organizers in tech about, things we're excited about, things that are firing us up, things that are getting us excited, things that are getting us mad, things that we want to focus on, things that we can help. So, I mean, I think the only way I want to the only way I want to be in tech is if I'm collaborating and organizing with other like-minded people. And it's just, and stuff we were just chatting about, again, like AI and its effects on the environment, its effects on labor practices. And Tech Workers Coalition was a place where I learned so much. And I think like it also really cool because it wasn't just one union organization. It was like several like different organizations. Some people were organized with CWA, Communication Workers of America. Some were organized with like SEIU. Some were organized with like the Alphabet union, which is the, Google workers union. And just was so interesting to see the diversity of organizing and labor organizing in tech. So sorry, I didn't answer a lot about my experience, but I just I love this. I love gushing about Tech Workers Coalition. So
yeah, and just for listeners, we'll link to their resources. They offer a lot of they have a Slack community. They have a lot of virtual events, so it's really easy. They have newsletters. It's really easy to get involved, even if you're not quite sure where you want to go. So we'll link to that in the episode description. Do you feel like your organization is at risk of enshittification? Obviously, the face of journalism is changing. My friends who are doing tech news are a lot of them, have been through multiple layoffs and are now in situations where their job is kind of to write the prompts for AI models to get AI written, hybrid written content. So to what extent do you feel like your company is embracing any kind of emerging technology, and do you feel like that's enshittifying it? Do you feel like it's making it better? Do you think the union has offered any protection in terms of your workers' ability to push back on potential enshittification of the product? I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
I can speak from a couple different perspectives. I'll speak from the union perspective first, which is that we did get in our contract language around the use of AI technology in our products. And it's not, if I'm being fully honest, not the strongest language, but I think was a good step for having this be the kind of thing that we are hey, this is stuff we want to bargain over. This is stuff we want to have a say in. And, there was a lot of back and forth conversation about that language. I think we borrowed from other contracts. There are conversations happening and kind of oversight committees and conversations around how the technology that's being used, not to create the content, but to, again, create the tools that help people create the content. So there's a policy right now where we say we don't want any of our proprietary information being used to train AIs. So there's certain kind of conversations around that. But again, colloquially, I know Copilot is a thing that I think using generative AI is brainstorming tools.
Yeah.
And I've fully I think I needed the JSON. I needed a function that output a certain JSON, and I just was not getting it right. And I went and I was can you write a function that does this? And I got one. So there's just a lot of different ways to think about AI in journalism. And it's we can think about it in terms of content. We can think about it in terms of the tools that journalists are using. And we can think about it as the tools that developers are using to build the tools that journalists are using. So I guess, and even as I'm talking, it's it's at so many different levels, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, I feel the usage of using generative AI as a brainstorming partner, I don't think that there's a ton of threat to the intellectual capacity of a person doing that. It's not plagiaristic. Obviously, the issue is how the AI is actually how it's getting modeled, what it's using to train its models, the resources it's using. There's so many problems with that. But on the other side, and very relevant to sort of the journalism conversation of in an age where critical thinking is on the decline. I mean, I've seen so many of these articles about Gen Z coming out of high school truly not really being able to read at a much wider level than we've ever seen before. I think it is an interesting conversation to be okay, are the people who are even creating the news and creating the tools that support the news, how are they using AI? And I don't think we haven't been in the AI age long enough to have crystal clear answers on it, but I am really heartened to hear that it's a conversation that you're having in your union and with other labor organizers. And I do think one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was in an administration that has no interest in protecting the integrity of journalism or of truth for that matter, and in an age where attention is the major economy, and so whether something is newsworthy, whether it's real, is not even relevant anymore. I know your news organization, and I think it's one of the most useful corners of the internet. And so I'm just curious, like, I know that everything you've just talked about is a way that your organization is protecting that corner of the internet. Is there anything else that you feel like you're doing as a tech org or as a broad org that's really trying to protect your organization? What are you guys doing to sort of protect that area and help it grow in a really healthy way?
So there's two sides of it. And I would say the first one is like doing the best job I can, showing up, trying to do the most quality work I can so that the people who use the products that I'm building, which are the journalists, that they can do their job. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say that part of doing my best work is also like taking care of myself, and making sure that, I am living a happy, fulfilled life, and have a good work-life balance so I don't burn out, so I can actually show up to work to like produce the good tools that people can use to do the work. And I think that is something that is hard for me. And this is at my current place of employment. This has been at other like mission-focused places that I've worked. There's so much pressure to do more with less, build better products with less time, build better products with less money, build better products with less people. And so burnout can be really high because we all care a lot. And I think that is something I love about working where I work and where I have worked in the past, is that people care a lot about what we're doing. And sometimes it can be exhausting. There have been times when there has been push and pull between like KPIs and the number of projects and products and deliverables that we have, for whether it be for features that are more audience focused or features that are more like internally focused. And it can be really hard and feel like we're at odds with the mission to push back on timelines, on scopes of projects. But at the end of the day, we're not gonna put out the best work if we don't feel like we have the time to do it, or have the energy to do it, or have the capacity to do so. Like, how do we protect the integrity of what we're building so that the people whose job it is to protect the integrity of the journalism can do their jobs?
Yes, absolutely. That's
And is that something that you measure? Because I mean, this is now expanding my mind. I'm like, even from like a UX standpoint, right? Like if things aren't loading, or if they're buggy, or it could just create a perception that then the news isn't accurate. So I'm wondering, like, is that something that you're, as a dev and product team, are you optimizing for certain metrics around speed and load time? Are you trying to make a performant product in that way?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I will say, I think what I can share from that was from definitely my time on working on the website, and knowing that we wanted to be at the, top when someone searched something. We wanted our news outlet to be, one of the top recommendations. And again, that means knowing how the search engine optimization works. That means making sure that all of our pages are performant in a certain way, because there's certain knowledge about if someone has to wait for a certain number of seconds for something to load, they're just going to go to the next thing. So again, like doing our jobs well enough to keep things performant, because, the stakes can be pretty big in terms of attention. But yeah, performance is definitely something I remember thinking a lot about when we were working on the website.
I think it's a really interesting point, AJ, too, because like on the shopping side, on the commerce side, like a thing that I tell some of the like early stage companies that I work with is a lot of times they'll go for this, idea of like having something out there is better than nothing, which I think at one point in time was true in how we thought about software development and like launching products and launching new features and getting it out so that you can get feedback on it. But there's this weird phenomenon where, like, if you don't have a UX designer because you're a really early stage company, or you're just working on your own project or whatever, if your UX looks clunky, or here's the crazy thing, if it looks a couple of years old, there's this weird thing where like users then think that your website is spammy. Like they make this psychological association with like, I can't trust the content that's there. I don't know if this is real. So like in some of the products I've worked on are either like deal related or barter related, or sort of like the content is sometimes like too good. It seems too good to be true. And then if you have kind of a crappy interface on top of it, they're like, well, it must be too good to be true. And it's like, it actually isn't. It's just like we didn't invest a ton into the UX because it just launched. So it's a really interesting point in a world where like, even, you know, I mean, people should be sort of critical when they read the news, but yeah, having a website that performs really well, it does have this psychological effect of making the news seem more credible. And that can be good and bad depending on what your news is that you're sharing. Well, great. Well, before we wrap up with you, Alex, I have a couple questions just about like how you exist as a user in an increasingly enshittified tech ecosystem. What are some of the most useful products that you use? Particularly like consumer tech products, apps that you have on your phone that you think are super useful? And like, is there anyone you're looking to for enshittification news? Are there books that you're reading that really made an impact? Are there Substacks that you're following? Where are you at with that in the ecosystem?
Totally. Well, I love this question, mostly because it gives me a chance to talk about one of my favorite apps that I use constantly on my phone, which is Libby.
Oh, yes. The library app.
The library app. I think in this day and age, we need to support our libraries as much as we
Hell
can. Yeah. And so I like to call myself a Libby slut. I used to.
I'm also a Libby slut.
I used to, when I first started using Libby, I was like, I'm going to be so responsible. I'm only going to check out one book and one audiobook at a time. And I'm going to wait until I've listened into it and wait till I'm done the book to get a new one or put something else on hold. Now, no. If I am even remotely interested in a book, I'm gonna get it on Libby, or I'm gonna put it on hold on Libby. And again, if they deliver it to me when I'm not able to read it, I just like am using my holds as a want to read list.
Yep.
I also want to shout out the Internet Archive,
yes.
which in this day and age of like things disappearing off the internet from certain websites, maybe certain websites run by the government, it is so, I think the work they're doing is incredible. They also have, lots of people know Internet Archive as their main product is the Wayback Machine, where you can go and just like type, any website, any date, and you can go back and look what that website looked like on that date. They also have a really cool, it's like a library. It's like an online library. They're trying to digitize a lot of different stuff. So you can actually get loans of certain digitized books from, I can't remember exactly what the name of it is called, but like if you Google like Internet Archive, one of their products is Wayback Machine, but they also have, like digitizing products. They also have, like audio library. They have a lot of really cool stuff. That's really cool.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been amazing chatting with you. And now, AJ, should we go Falcon mode? For those of you who are new to the show, this is our listener submitted segment where we take your product ideas and we chat about how to make them more useful, more feasible, and more fundable. So this suggestion comes from Lithia. Lithia says, I know nothing whatsoever about cars, so every time I have to deal with car maintenance or repairs, it's a stressful and time-consuming experience. It feels like every mechanic I research has plenty of 1-star and 5-star reviews. So how do I know that the mechanic I visit is trustworthy? Not to mention the time it takes to look up and compare all the mechanics in my area and bring the car over to each one to get a quote. My idea is a service where I could pay someone to be both part expert, somebody who knows a lot about cars, and part personal assistance to do the legwork of bringing the car in to get quotes and get repaired. So what do we think about this, folks? I will say it's a problem I could use a solution for because I have no interest in getting my car maintained. I mean, I would like to have a safe and working car, but I don't really want to go do it. And I always feel like I'm getting swindled at the mechanic, even though I'm probably not.
My thing is, if you live in LA, which, Alex, are you in LA as well?
Yes.
There's so many car shops everywhere.
So many.
So I love the convenience. It's more that I don't trust it. But if I had some sort of, I mean, what this idea is making me think of is that if there was some sort of like blue check mark but for car folks,
Yeah.
but if it was like somehow partnered with the physical, because for me it's like I'm going to be driving, I'm going to be in my car, I want to see something and then be able to like get immediate help and then know that it's going to be something that I can verify, but also get the charm of having, you know, a cool person that can chat shop with you and like physically look at your car and help out. So that would be my way of making it additionally useful, would be probably partner with an O'Reilly's or an AutoZone. You know, you get that you're already getting all the jingles, they're doing all the advertising, and then you can like add on your special sauce to that.
Yeah, I think when I was first thinking about this, I mean, it sounds like the use case is really that like Lithia needs a driver advocate, and like that is technically what AAA is AAA is a driver advocacy group, and they have authorized repair shops that are like both the people who would come tow you is like an authorized AAA tow shop, but also like they have their own repair shops. But I don't think people use I've always had great experiences with AAA. I don't think people use it for non-emergencies. I could be totally wrong, but like I interpreted when I first read this idea, I interpreted it as like, okay, you like dinged your car in a parking lot. It's not a big deal, but you would like to get your car fixed. And then it just feels like such a drag to have to go to these different body shops where it's like nothing is broken on the car, it works, it's fine, like there's not necessarily like all that much even opacity of what needs to be done, because you know what it would look like if it's fixed, but there's just the drag of trying to go to these different shops and get these quotes. And so it's like you need somebody who can be an advocate for you and can present options with you. So like I think it would be cool if I can imagine, I don't know if it's an app or a service, like a person could like
It's a WAG. It's a WAG for cars.
Yeah, exactly. It's a WAG for cars. And I remember like I used to work for a company that was in Venice Beach, and there's just like no parking in Venice Beach. So the valet company like went out of business, but they partnered with this valet startup that would like, the company paid for us to go. There was no parking. So I would go into work and then I'd pass it to a valet and they would go take it somewhere a couple miles away where they could park the car, and then they'd come back because it wasn't really that fancy. There just wasn't any parking around. So it's like you kind of need somebody to be part driver advocate and part valet. And so I was like, well, you could partner with like a delivery union and like a mechanic union to try to get these people. Obviously at a certain scale it starts to become just like more noise in the middle, but I was like, this could even be a person who's like really car savvy. Like you could just start this business and be like, it's, you know, it's Ariel's special car fix it service, where like I'm not the person to do it, but like go to different shops where you have these relationships and can potentially get like better prices for it, and you just know that you're not getting bullshit, right?
Bullshit.
And I don't bullshitted, I don't know. And like one of the things I was thinking about too that I would appreciate, like when I drive a VW, and when it was still under warranty, I would take it to the dealer, which like the dealer, I don't recommend dealing with any dealers, any car dealers if you can avoid it. But they would give me like because it was a big company, when I would get back my car from repairs, there would be like a portal online and it would show me videos of every single thing. Like they go through their 40-point inspection or whatever, and they would videotape it all and put it in this portal, which was kind of nice. I still didn't really know what I was looking at, but like sometimes they'd be like, your coolant cap is broken. And I'm like, yeah, that does look broken. I do know what that looks like. And so I just think it would be interesting too on a policy level to have like a right to understand law of like, there should be some standardization of like mechanics and body shops of how they present information, because I was talking to people who are big car people and know a lot about cars, and they were like, no, I also don't know what's going on when I take my car to the mechanic. Like they tell me what's wrong and I'm like, I gotta believe you, I'm not a professional mechanic. But so it's like they don't know either. So it's like nobody knows what the hell is going on in a mechanic shop. It's just like totally opaque. And I guess I could learn how to fix cars and learn about cars, but I'd rather there just be some like standard understanding of how they tell me what they've done to my car and what needs to be done.
I wish I had that in a lot of circumstances. Definitely.
Yeah, right to understand everywhere. Yes, the doctor.
Yeah, break down the blood test. Come on.
Yes.
Like, tell me what's good.
Which your doctor should be doing. You know,
like
you
give me the
can
science.
Google that one. Yeah.
I've been cooking on the name. It's not there yet, but it's something to do with repair and au pair. You know,
Ooh, the repair au pair. Hell yeah.
It's luxe, you know? It's like a little upscale. It's not a name. It's like an au pair, but like elevated service.
Thank you, Alex, so much for joining us. Thank you all for listening. It's been a super fun chat, and we will chat with you in 2 weeks. Actually Useful is part of the Industry Plant Podcast Network. It's co-hosted by Ariel Butters and AJ Weaver. It's executive produced and edited by Josh Stratton Carlson. If you like the show, please consider subscribing to our Substack or YouTube at Actually Useful Pod, or give us a follow on most social media platforms.